So welcome to today's practice. Here in the background, you will see a prepared setup to begin with. However, if you don't have all of those items, you can basically just lie down on your back, bend your knees, let them roll out and touch the soles of the feet together. If you prefer a slight incline as I prepared here, I've used underneath here 2 blocks, one in the highest, one in the next or middle setting. You could also have these blocks a lot lower. You don't have all of those blocks, don't worry, you can use anything underneath that's a bit sturdy and you could lie over. Also, the bolster is just an option. If you don't have any bolsters at home, you might instead roll up a blanket and align that maybe without the blocks onto the mat. Now, if you have a full setup at home and you might have a little light discomfort in your lower back, I like to sit on a cushion here or a blanket in front. So how we will get there is by simply sitting on the mat, whatever construction you choose to have, and then slowly lying back. Now, if you are lying over a rolled up blanket or your own bolster, align your spine over it so your arms can fall draped down towards the ground. That's there to lightly open through your chest and collarbone area. I've just deliberately tucked my chin in a little bit to lengthen the back of the neck. If you find your construction lets your head fall a little bit backwards, you might bring another cushion in and place that underneath your head. So many options. In the end, if that's available to you, bending knees, letting knees fall out and soles of the feet touching. Having said that, if you've got any hip issues going on currently, this may or may not work for you. If it's not working, you might need extra support underneath the knees here, such as further blocks or just lean one leg against the wall. If that is not working, you might want to step your feet out wide onto the ground instead and allow a subtle opening to occur. In any case, once you've found your place, you could choose to gently close your eyes. If you find that unsettling, keep the eyes open and find a steady point to stare at that doesn't cause you any effort, as in rolling the eyes somewhere, just straight ahead. Allow yourself in this shape that you created now to simply surrender, to find your place physically at first, as you begin to wonder about yourself. This very outer layer of physical body. You might feel within your physical body subtle challenges. While you do feel hopefully quite supported underneath, you're exposing yourself, you're opening yourself up on the other side of the body. Depending on the body, as well as your mind and your emotions, and on top, your energy. You might notice tightness or ease in this shape. Beginning to see yourself as the observer of your own practice and your own being. As if you were slightly detached and just witnessing what is happening. Embracing all the opportunities that arise for you as you apply curiosity and wonder to the practice today. As you might wonder about yourself, how you respond to certain shapes, allow your breath to deepen a bit and see what happens when you're applying a full yogi breath. The belly rises, ribs expand, and chest is lifting. And then the belly falls again, the ribs come in, and the chest is relaxing. A simple full yogi breath from belly to ribs to collarbones in the same pattern for the in and the out breath. And beginning to notice as you breathe this way and find your way into this breath, how that impacts you as you rest here. Curious as if you had never seen or done this shape before. The card that I drew for our practice today is from the Whispers of Lord Ganesha deck. The card that came up is called Priorities. And as the main idea around this card so nicely fits the idea of being curious and wondering what is really happening, I will share that with you at the beginning. It simply says here, make the most of your time. To me, that includes embracing that makes me feel uncomfortable or challenged. And maybe even be grateful for these challenging experiences as well. It is often when you talk to people that have challenges in their life that are quite consuming. When you ask them after, they all found something, if they're lucky and present, that they gained from that experience. So might you approach your practice with general wonder about the magnificence of the human being that you are, and whatever is happening in the practice, just looking at it in wonder, which also includes to take care of yourself. So if something does just not feel right for you, back off a little or change your position. As you allow your knees to come back up, bring the hands down to the ground. And especially if you're in an incline here, you might tuck the chin in and push the floor away with your hands and arms to sit up straight. Please feel free to roll over onto your side if that's your preference. We will remove all the items we just placed there to the side. I will bring them a little bit further away so you can still see me. And you might leave an item like a block or a pile of books nearby, as well as maybe a light cushioning for the head or to sit upon. I then ask you to come back down onto the ground. From this lying position, you might bend your knees lightly over your chest, placing each hand onto a kneecap with your fingers pointing in the direction of your toes. A gentle apanasana as you inhale to straighten your arms and move the knees away from you. And on the out breath, drawing the knees back in towards the chest. So for the inhale, extending the arms. On the exhale, drawing the knees to the chest. Let that flow together with a deep, full breath in your own pace. So for now, just extending the arms and rocking the knees in, finding your own rhythm. You can then choose to extend a little bit further. As you might on the inhale, extend your legs up to the ceiling, reach your arms over the head, and then return hands to kneecaps and breathe out to hug the knees in. For the inhale, you might push the knees away or extend arms and legs, and out breath to draw the knees into the chest. Keep that flowing for another couple of breaths. And whichever stage of this movement you are enjoying, please keep playing with that. If you would like to add a bit of core strength here and your lower back allows you, you may extend the legs more over the floor and the arms over the head, and then hugging the knees back into the chest. So the movement stays the same, only that you might choose to extend your legs out long and just over the ground, or in an angle away from you if that works better. Go for another 3 breaths now. Once you completed your 3, keep the knees hugged in, embrace them a tad bit more, and you could choose to rock here from side to side. I will now grab a block. If you like support here too, please grab a block yourself. This will be optional. Placing the feet down at hip distance, the heels walking up to your bottom as far as they can naturally go, and lengthening the arms alongside the body. On a breath in, tilting the pelvis to flatten your spine to the ground, and then squeeze your bottom up as you're breathing out. I will now use a block. You can use any support under here that feels right for you, or even hold in the air. The block can go under at any height that feels right for you. If you're holding the bridge without the block, please draw your tailbone actively up towards your knees. Some of you might allow the arms to fall open. Others might choose to wiggle the shoulders a bit under. And if you're not using a block, you might also interlace your hands here. We will stay within the bridge, supported or held freely for 3 flowing breaths. After you completed your 3 breaths, you might lift your hips back up, remove the block from underneath, and slowly release down to the mat. Now bringing your right knee into the chest, and you might give it a good hug and squeeze in. Option, left leg extending out long. Next option, nose towards the knee. And then slowly releasing the body back down. Keep your right knee in a hug and bring your left knee in as well. Take a breath and open your arms out wide or cactus style. Squeeze your knees together and let them roll towards the left. If your feet can land on the ground somewhere, let them. Let the knees land and keep your shoulders grounded. Your gaze might still be upwards. And if it feels good, you might lift your knees along the floor a little bit closer towards your chest. Maybe increasing the length there in the side body. Take a breath and see if the breath is easily being directed into the space that you are intending to create. One more breath here. You might then bring your knees back up, or you could also keep your feet on the ground. Landing your right foot down as you reach the center and embracing your left knee if that suits. You can choose here as well to extend your right leg out long, keeping the left knee squeezed into the chest. An option on the next out was to lift your nose up to the knee. And then gently releasing the upper body back down. As you keep your left knee over the chest, bring the right knee up as well. Open your arms as you breathe in and squeeze your knees tightly. And while breathing out, letting the knees fall to the right. If the feet land perfectly fine, maybe your knees are landing too, but let your left shoulder remain grounded, as you might allow a steady gaze upwards or even close the eyes. If your knees now comfortably resting to the one side, you might choose to roll all the way over to that side and then gently rise into a seated position. To sit very comfortably, you could use a folded blanket underneath, or a block, or a bolster, whatever feels right for you. Bringing your legs in and starting to wiggle over your sitting bones. Now, if the bent knees aren't yours, you can sit a little bit higher, maybe towards the heels, or extend your legs out to the front as well. Resting your hands down when you're ready. And as we settle into our shape, you might think about your tailbone drawing a little bit downwards as if you were to lengthen your lower back. And notice what happens. The body is starting to lean a little bit backwards. When I observe myself here, and please do so for yourself too, when I don't let the tailbone sink down, I generally engage my hip flexor muscles and lean a little bit forward in the seat. So maybe a good excuse to sink a little bit in. When you find your place on your sitting bones, start to move your shoulders a bit, maybe your neck, and finding a place that completely feels supported and comfortable. Whenever you feel the stillness might feel good, let your elbows just snuggle a little bit into the sides rather than extending actively from the shoulders. Even your arms and shoulders become effortless. Notice what it feels like to have the palms touching the thighs in comparison to letting the palms face upwards. You might have an intuitive feeling here what is right for you in this moment. Taking that variation and then maybe even joining your index and thumbs together. A typical mudra to assist our concentration and one that's used for meditation too. Allowing yourself to feel the loop in your fingers. And beginning to draw awareness now to the flow of the breath through each nostril. Maybe noticing that one nostril is less open than the other. and exploring which one that might be. Or acknowledging that right now your energies are perfectly balanced and the breath flows evenly through both. Notice if the breath is actually flowing very freely, or if the sinuses are lightly irritated. If you notice that, fold your index fingers into the hand and touch your thumb to the inside of your middle finger. I will bring that up to the screen so you can see that better, and I will turn my back to you. So folding the index finger in towards the palm, and then touching your thumb to the inside of the middle fingers, looking like this. Then you can rest that down upon your thighs, and either having a steady gazing point or closing the eyes. If you like, you can join into 7 rounds of Brahmari, or the humming bee breath, where you simply breathe in and then hum the breath out for as long as is comfortable for you, then inhaling again. So basically you don't have to wait for anybody else. I will have a count and let you know when we are completed. Let's begin together, breathing in. Two more and then pausing. Being the observer, as you notice that there might be still some vibrations, or where you notice them during the breath work. If you're using a mudra, you might gently release through the fingers. As you have various options on how to come into a standing position, you might take your legs out to the side and stand up. Or you might place your feet out a little bit wider, maybe already facing the short side of the mat, and pushing yourself up this way. If your knees or hips are challenged, rest your forearms to your thighs, lighter bend in the knees. If you feel ready for that, you might squat all the way down, allowing a short moment here in a yogic squat. As you breathe in, imagine there's length coming through your spine. And as you breathe out, place the hands down, begin to lift your hips and turning your toes forward as you place your feet back parallel into a standing forward bend. On your out breath, then beginning to uncurl the spine into a standing position, lifting the shoulders and giving them a gentle shrug back. So ideally you're standing now at the short front edge of the mat while I will be facing you, so it's easier in the visual. The feet about comfortable distance apart, the knees lightly soft. We're working with a solar kriya or practice to begin with. For that, I'd ask you to join the hands in front of the heart space. And as we breathe in, you start to lift your arms. If it's right, open the arms and lift from your sternum, even looking up into a light back bend. When you breathe out, join the palms again. Let your knees soften, engage your tummy a little, and melt down into a standing forward bend or uttanasana, if available, looking between your legs. Rolling up slowly into the standing position on an out breath. Hands come to touch at the heart space. And as we go again, lifting the arms, opening, maybe a light back bend on the breath in. Hands joining back together, knees are soft and melting down into the standing forward bend. We will repeat that a few more times, so our breath to roll up, hands to touch, but we're changing our focus. As you breathe in and open into a standing back bend, let light lift from your navel to your heart. When you're breathing out, bend the knees, the hands draw down into a forward bend. Let light move from your tailbone to the crown of the head. Rolling back up, hands are touching. Breath into your standing back bend, light from navel to heart space. As you breathe out to your forward fold, everything is soft. Letting light shine from the tailbone, moving up to the crown of the head. Going for 2 more and keeping those visuals in your mind as you're moving the light. Navel to heart. Tailbone to crown. Once again, light over the front body. And light all the way through the spine to the crown as you rest in a standing forward bend now. Allowing yourself from here to step your right foot back. Ground your right heel to the floor and bring your hands in between your legs, starting to move your body gently from side to side. If your arms feel like they need support but can't quite reach the ground, you could use your block here, or you could choose, if no support's needed, to just flow from side to side. Let on your next breath, the body just lean into the space between the legs. Turning your left toes forward, your right heel a little bit back. And then exhaling as you're rolling up through the spine into a standing pose. You might raise your arms on the breath in. And then push the arms out for warrior 2 while bending your left knee. So I will still rest my arm. That's quite a stretch for me. You can do the same if you have issues with your shoulders or arms. If not, start to draw the feet a little bit in towards each other, holding the arms at about shoulder height. And if you haven't yet, turn your gazing point or drishti over the left hand fingertips. While you might find yourself quite static here, use that little drawing in of the feet to be quite active on the ground. While you're inhaling, turn the palms upwards and your head to look back. And as you breathe out, turn the palms down and looking forward again. Let's do that for a few more breaths. Palms up, turning head back. Palms down, your usual gazing point forward. Your pace, your own breath. One last round. As you turn back, and as you breathe out, exalting the warrior shape. So your foundation is still the same, but you might have reached your arms behind you, letting one rest down on the back leg. Take a deep breath and stretch a bit further to your fingers. Then bend your back knee and let your body roll in. Landing your hands either side of your front foot, lifting the back heel. You might then bring your back knee down to the ground and untuck your toes. You could choose to lean a little bit into the horse rider position by having knees stacked over your ankle joint, the hips slightly leaning forward. But find the place where your hips are still kind of engaged, not really hanging in there. So I quite like the idea of drawing the left side of the hip a little bit back to align it with the right. And you might notice a change here in the stretch. Then planting your hands down onto the mat, stepping your knee back and finding a kneeling plank position, drawing tailbone down in the direction of the heels and creating space in your upper back. With the out breath, keep your elbows close, lower pelvis, belly, chest, and then forehead to the ground. If your lower back is feeling a bit challenged today, you might actually lift the feet off the floor. If it's possible, rather grounding the tops of the feet down into the mat so the knees are lightly lifting away from the floor. Keep your elbows snug in by your side. We're creating waves. As you inhale, wave up lightly, baby cobra. And breathe out to release back to the mat. Inhaling, mini wave. Exhaling, releasing. Let that flow for another couple of breaths, creating your own pace. And with the following movement upwards, you might choose to pause. Shoulders are down, elbows are snugged into the side of the body. And with the next out breath, releasing to the floor. With the inhalation now, come up onto your hands and knees, and then round the spine back, buttocks towards the heels as you come to rest in a child's pose. If resting isn't quite feeling right, you might also move a little bit from side to side as you explore how your back is feeling, the hips. Actively extending the arms again to the front of the mat. Taking a breath in to come up onto your hands and knees. Have a little checkup here, placing your knees underneath the hips, the hands shoulder distance apart, and the wrists a little forward from underneath the shoulders. Let the weight leaning into the palms of the hands, the bases of the fingers, and the pads of the fingers. As you find some strength here. With your next inhalation, lifting your right leg and maybe your left arm. Arm is optional here. On your out breath, drawing elbow, knee and nose together, rounding the spine. For the inhale, extend. Exhale, curl it back in. Repeating here for 3 more breaths. Finding length, looking down and then curling in and rounding the spine. Once you completed your rounds, extending the body again, landing the hand down to the mat. And as you breathe out, draw the knee back into the chest, landing the foot in between your hands. If you prefer to practice on the knee, swing the foot behind you to open your hips to the side. If you like to tuck the toes under, lift the knee, then please ground the foot to the floor. Both hands are on the inside of the front foot. And as you inhale, lifting your left arm. You might choose to place the right forearm down on top of the thigh for the side angle pose, or you might like to keep your arms extended. The front knee hasn't changed its position, it's still placed over the ankle. You might use your arm on the inside of the leg if it's extended to guide your knee in alignment with your toes. As you stretch up, breathe in. On the breath out, lightly placing hand to side of waist or wrapping it behind the back, your choice. We will lean a little bit further forward. Now, while you could do that for free balancing, you might as well use the block underneath and start to peel the back foot in. If you want your big toe to the floor, you're already in a good position. If you would like to lift, flexing the foot and starting to stack your hips and shoulders. If your breath is flowing, you might extend your left arm for a half moon shape. Then release your feet to the ground and relax your whole body down. We'll come back to our Surya Kriya. As you uncurl the spine, bringing hands to touch, and take a breath in as you might open the arms out wide. Softening the knees as you bring your hands together. Let the light flow back from your tail to the crown. Curling back up into a standing position. Hands touching again. Light from the navel to the heart. We'll flow back down, bringing the light from the tail to the crown. And one more round here. Uncurling. Light from navel to heart as you open. And folding back down as the light moves down from the tail to the crown. As you breathe in now, straighten your spine forward into a half lift. With your out breath then, stepping your left foot down the mat, grounding the heel, and placing the hands between the feet, as you might move again from side to side. Arms can be floated or grounded, whichever you prefer. Just moving your body, letting upper body flow freely and lower body. And you might notice that on this side, as you observe yourself, it feels a tad bit easier as we've already moved the body. Let's now turn the right toes to the short side front of the mat. Left heel to the back. Let your upper body surrender down. And then start an exhale to uncurl. You might straighten your legs as you reach your arms up, inhaling. And as you bend your front knee, extending the arms back out to about shoulder height. The same here, whatever is uncomfortable, make it lower or rest it down. Your front knee is in any posture today stacked over your ankle joint. And you might feel that light drawing inwards of the feet to bring stamina and strength to the shape. As your gazing point might be over your front hand fingertips, Potentially the palms are facing down. When you're inhaling, turn the hands upward and look into the backhand. And as you exhale, turn the palms down and look into the front. Let that flow as you inhale, palms up, looking back. Exhaling, palms down and looking forward. Keep that flowing with your breath for a little while. One more round. Then only turning back as you inhale, and on the exhale, exalting the warrior. Same here, front knee is still pointing in line with your toes until we unlock the back knee and we're rolling everything in. Framing here the front foot and raising the back heel. Placing the back knee down to the mat, and you might like to untuck your toes. Maintaining front knee over ankle joint or wiggling the foot forward. And if you're comfortable with that, lean the hips in. But you might then again draw now the right hip lightly backwards, so that you're applying a little bit more support into the legs and less hanging in the joints, but maybe actively lengthening through muscles and fascia here. You can then choose another kneeling plank as you might place your hands down. If you want to do a full plank, you might start by tucking toes under, lifting the knee off the floor, then stepping the foot back. If you change your mind, just place the knees back down to the ground. All tailbones move in directions of the heels, and elbows stay close as you breathe out, landing pelvis, belly, chest, or head to the mat. With your tops of the feet, this time potentially lifting, you might also lengthen your arms down by the sides. With the next inhale, lifting up everything that's movable, and with the out breath, releasing back down. And you might do that for a few breaths, lifting on the in breath and lowering on the out breath. Noticing how you're holding your palms. They might be facing up right now. You could turn them down as you continue. Observing how that might impact the movement you're in. And maybe holding the last round. Your choice of playing with how you're facing the palms, maybe turning the arms up and down to get movement through the shoulders, maybe holding in your preferred variation. Out breath, release that down towards the floor, placing the hands back near your shoulders, and an inhale to come up onto hands and knees. You might find a quirky movement back into child's pose, or even choose to move a little in your child's pose. We will come back to an all four stance on a breath in, lifting onto all fours, separating the knees again and placing the hands down, grounded into your hand lock. Lifting this time, the left leg back and the right arm forward is optional. On your out breath, bringing elbow, knee and nose together. Inhaling, lengthen. Exhaling, curling in. Repeating for 3 more breaths. And as we're all moving at different paces, when you completed your rounds, lengthen out again. Then land the right hand to the mat and bring the left knee back to the chest, either stepping or helping the foot forward here. Option to swing the foot on the ground behind you to open your hips, or tuck the toes under, lift the knee and ground the heel to the floor. Move your hands to the inside of your front foot. And as you breathe in, begin to raise your right arm. You can lower the forearm on the left side down upon your thigh, adjusting yourself as you might look down towards the front knee and ankle, aligning them over each other. The top arm is back or the shoulder is back. Your gaze could be in the open or down towards the ground. Arm might stay extended, wrap behind the back, or come into the side of the waist. I suggest the hand in the side of the waist for the transition, as you might reach with your left hand towards the block. Slide the back foot in and either stay here or lifting the back foot off the ground and flexing it as you turn your hips and then lift your shoulders up. If you find stability, you might extend your arm, or you might have a little giggle about the dance that your body is doing in this shape. Then landing your feet again next to each other and softening down into a standing forward bend. Let's come back to our Surya movement. As you begin to uncurl the spine, bring the hands through the center and open as you breathe in. Drawing the hands back down the midline as we fold down back to a forward bend. We'll do that twice more, uncurling through the spine, hands coming through the center, light from navel to heart. And on the forward bend, draw the light from the tail to the crown as you look between the legs. Just one more round here. Staying in the end, in the forward fold. Finding your way down onto the mat, into a seated position. I've just regained my blanket folded. You could also use blocks to sit upon. Extending your legs out in front. You might start with the right knee coming into a bend. And if it's comfortable for you, let the knee roll out towards the side. Place the hands down either side of your extended leg and draw the hip lightly in. Bend your knee and flex the foot so your toes are turned upwards. You can choose to just lean back to your sitting bones again as we practiced at the very beginning, but then fold just directly from your hip, letting your spine still be long as you lean against the thigh, and then maybe creating a roundedness as you lower the rest of your upper body. You can keep your knee bent here if you're feeling an extension coming through the back of the leg and your belly is attached to the thighs. But you may slightly heel out a bit further if that feels right for you. You could also create gentle waves here in your body to release a little bit further if you're feeling stuck. So either resting or flowing ever so gently through the spine. Taking note of where you feel a little bit challenged in this shape, or if you aren't at all. We will come back to a seated position, but first take your breath in and lengthen your spine halfway out. And you might then slide or walk the hands back. You could lift your knee up here and place the foot down with a little gap between the foot and your extended leg. Take the opposite hand to the knee and place the other hand fingertips behind your back as a support. Keep a flexion in the foot that is extended and lift up through the spine, breathing in and then coming into a twist, breathing out. You could choose to wrap your elbow around the knee or come into any binds that you might be familiar with. The purpose here is more the twist in the spine than getting deeper, and maybe a massage of your abdominal organs as you draw the knee inwards. Your gaze is steady or your eyes might be closed. With the next breath in, let your head come forward. And with the breath out, release the shape as you extend your right leg out, bringing the left knee into a bend. If it comes easy to you, let the knee fall outwards. If not, you can have the foot or extend both legs. Lifting the long side up, draw it a little bit back and begin to bend the knee and turn the toes up towards the ceiling. Do the same here, sink back towards your tailbone and feel the length of your spine as you breathe in. Then maybe leaning your belly in direction of the thighs, walking or bringing the hands into a comfortable position. Once you've leaned to your thighs, you might lower and round the spine. Same options here. If you prefer steadiness in your holds, just lengthen the exhalations. If you enjoy movement, maybe bring little waves into the spine as you lengthen forward and then release deeper in. As you breathe or flow gently, bring awareness again to that you experience as good and that you experience as challenging. And allowing your mind to even feel good about that is challenging. Just like we drew light through the body today in our Surya Kriya, you might draw light of awareness to parts of you. Let your body come into a soft rest. Then lift halfway out of the shape as you breathe in and walk or slide the hands back to a seat as you breathe out. The leg might extend fully, but keep the foot in a flexion, guiding the knee up, and you might place the foot down onto the ground, just a little bit away from the extended leg. Opposite hand towards the knee, right hand or the left hand fingertips behind, and pull yourself up. Then breathe out and twist. And you might give your knee a good hug in if that feels right. Feeling grounded in the sitting bones, steady in your gaze, or coming within as you might choose to close the eyes. To release on your next inhale, turn your head forward and then relax into a straight-legged seated position. I, however, suggest to move that forward and with that remove support from underneath. I will keep my folded blanket here as a cushion. You might do the same. If for relaxation you have rolled up mats or bolsters, please pull them nearby. We're getting there. As you might reach your arms forward, breathing in And then slowly rounding the spine all the way down to the mat. And you can support here with hands if you want some extra support. As you might lower your head down towards the floor, bringing both feet back onto the ground, adjusting maybe your back, and then lifting both knees up over your chest, separating the knees. Take a hold behind your thighs. Hug the knees in towards the shoulders. So keep the knees really wide. Then lift your ankles to stack over your knees and flex your feet, as if the soles of the feet were attached to the ceiling. You can stay here and just draw your knees down to the floor outside of your shoulders. If you can reach, you might also bring your arms to the inside of your knees and take a comfortable hold of the outer edges of the feet. If this then is uncomfortable, please come back to the hold of the backs of the thighs. Just drawing the knees down, maybe feeling some extension again through the pelvic area, your back. And if you enjoy rocking, you might pull more on one leg or foot than on the other and create a rocking sensation. Feet the highest point if manageable. You could then come back into the center and extend both legs up towards the ceiling, letting your arms come to rest by your side. You might flex and point the feet, going in opposite directions and exploring that movement in the legs. Depending on how your back is feeling, you might prefer to bend your knees and step the feet to the ground, or you could slide your hands under the lower part of the buttocks, leave the feet in a flexion, draw the lower belly in, and breathe out to lower straight legs. If you then feel a pinch in your back, please bend the knees and lower the feet to the floor. Your choice might be to take a big stretch once you're lying on the ground, extending from toes up to the fingertips. And then coming into Shavasana or resting pose as you place your arms down, turning palms up. If you're comfortable with the legs out long, just separate them, let the toes fall outwards. You might also bring your cushioning underneath the knees. Or if the back is challenged today, take the feet to mat distance with your knees bent and let the knees fall in for a constructive rest instead. Have as many wiggles and movements that you need to be comfortable, including having clothing on or bringing a blanket over your body. Taking time to get comfy. You might then close your eyes or steady your gaze to the ceiling. As you find your rest, you might choose to contemplate back on the card for today. Priorities. Did you just make the most of your time in the practice? The Ganesha deck, it says, every day is a gift. You have the option to make the most of what life is offering you. If you long to create organization in your life, you will benefit from prioritizing. Your ideals determine what you will seek in life. Your priorities are most visible in how you use your time. Ganesha is holding the water lily and emphasizing the importance of your values. He encourages you to know what you truly want, what makes you happiest. There are always blessings that may not be apparent in the midst of a disappointment. Time is not something that can be saved for later. When it comes to the time allotted to you each day, you only have a limited opportunity. Make your choices about how you spend your time in accordance with your highest values. If you languish or procrastinate, the moment will be gone. Reevaluate how you have been spending your days and how you can strive to be more satisfied. In terms of priorities, for each major decision, such as education, occupation, place of residence, marriage, or parenting, you may ask yourself, what will be the impact of my decision? In all choices, make sure that you are certain of what your priorities are. Relate your goals to ways to bring love and blessings to yourself and the people who you share your life with. If any of that resonated with you, you might make the theme of the cards your intention for the rest of the day. Make the most of your time. Turning the awareness back to your physical body on the mat. Maybe starting to deepen your breath. Bringing movement back or stretching to your body. As you might choose to roll onto your side or sit up over the front of the body, joining me in a seated position. You might join the palms back together in front of your chest. And for a last time, you might lift the arms and draw light from your navel towards your heart. Before you draw the hands back together in that light-filled space of your heart, you might close your eyes. And we will complete our practice with one chant of Om, universal sound, followed by 3 shantis, meaning peace. Let's inhale together to begin. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. As we gently bow, we're extending our light to each other. Namaste.